This is TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And the State of the Saints podcast is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Over 2 million men worldwide choose Manscaped for all their below-the-waist needs. For those that love the Lawnmower 3.0, well, I got news for you. The Manscaped engineering team has confirmed that they have successfully created the Lawnmower 4.0. The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. The new trimmer even allows you to customize your trim all through additional guards lengths, sizes 1 through 4. And looks-wise, it's sleek with a two-tone matte and gloss finish, even features a hot foil stamp, black chrome Manscaped logo. Show your mower off loud and proud. Go to manscaped.com, use the promo code State of Saints, and you will save 20% off of the Lawnmower 4.0 as well as other Manscaped items. That's manscaped.com. Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, and welcome to the State of the Saints podcast minute, the podcast where we talk New Orleans Saints for a few minutes. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the first installment of the State of the Saints podcast minute. I mean, it's just as simple as what I just said, okay? I mean, I pick a topic that involves the New Orleans Saints, and we talk about it for a few minutes. But it's a little bit different because we know the divisional round of the AFC and NFC playoffs kicks off this weekend. So we're going to be talking about some of those games as well. But the topic that involves the New Orleans Saints, we have to focus on defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. According to sources, Dennis Allen has gotten an interview for a head coaching job of the Chicago Bears. And Dennis Allen has been the defensive coordinator for a few years with the New Orleans Saints, and he has turned the New Orleans Saints defense into a formidable one. I mean, the Saints defense was absolutely terrible before Dennis Allen got here and restructured and changed things around. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. They couldn't stop traffic with a stop sign. And now the New Orleans Saints have a top 5 defense, dominating the league and really putting some of the top talent at quarterback on their backs. But Dennis Allen getting another opportunity to be a head coach in the National Football League. Does he deserve another opportunity? Well, let's go ahead and rewind it a tad bit. I mean, we know that Dennis Allen has had a few stops with the New Orleans Saints. This is his second stint. The first time he was the secondary coach of the New Orleans Saints, and we know that his secondary with Tracy Porter and Darren Sharper and Jabari Greer and a young Malcolm Jenkins, they led the league in turnovers, right, for that magical season that gave the New Orleans Saints their first and lonely Super Bowl in franchise history. Dennis Allen was the architect of that secondary. He then got an opportunity to become the defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos, and he got his first head coaching job with the Oakland Raiders. And didn't pan out the way that I think that Dennis Allen would want it to, okay? He didn't win a lot of games. The Oakland Raiders were terrible. I mean, I can say that the Oakland Raiders at that time was just a train wreck. Al Davis was in his old age. He was still set in his ways. He was stubborn, and he didn't make the right decisions when it comes to what this team and franchise actually needed. I'm talking to Oakland Raiders, and of course, Dennis Allen was not successful. He was 8-28 as a head coach from 2012 to 2014. Over that span, he didn't even win double-digit games. So, needless to say, it was not a good look. But he still got another opportunity to, become a defensive coordinator. Looking at it, he went to the Broncos. Well, he went back to the Saints in 2015, but he was an assistant coach. He wasn't the defensive coordinator at the time. That belonged to Rob Ryan. And I think that the writing was on the wall at this particular time, because I think when the Saints hired Rob Ryan, he was a great or a good defensive mind, but he was a little bit stubborn. We know about all the penalties that the Saints had defensively. They were always late to the huddle, and we knew that Dennis Allen was a little bit more organized. I think to this day, I could be speculating, but I don't think Rob Ryan and Dennis Allen really get along. I don't think they're sending each other Christmas cards in the mail. It just seems like Dennis Allen was hired to kind of clean up Rob Ryan and kind of keep him, organized. But Rob Ryan ended up, getting dismissed by the New Orleans Saints, justifiably so. I like Rob Ryan as a personality, but sometimes he allows the inmates to run the asylum. Not that I'm calling anybody on the Saints team prisoners. It's just a figure of speech, okay? He was not the right fit for the New Orleans Saints defensively, but the Saints had Dennis Allen in the house, okay? And, of course, man, it wasn't the best, okay? I was one of those people earlier in the creation of the State of the Saints podcast, did not believe that Dennis Allen was the answer. I mean, the defense still was looking stagnant. It still felt like they couldn't stop anybody. And I was really advocating for this guy to get fired. Hey, I'm not going to be one of those people that act as if I didn't believe this, okay? Dennis Allen in the beginning was not the Dennis Allen that we are looking at right now. But, of course, Dennis Allen was able to right the ship. They got some pieces in place. They got some talented defensive players, and he was able to turn this team into a really good defensive team. The Saints, as of right now, are driven by defense. And I thought I would never see the day because, like I said at the beginning, the Saints couldn't stop a nosebleed back in those days. But Dennis Allen getting another opportunity to become a head coach possibly, and, he gets the first stop with the Chicago Bears. Look, I think a lot of teams and a lot of organizations, they look at these coaches, and they look at these coaches when they're going up against elite talent. We know that the New Orleans Saints get an opportunity to go after arguably the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady twice in a season. And we've seen that Dennis Allen's defense has really neutralized Tom Brady, has done things that no other team could do to Tom. I mean, he has more interceptions and more turnovers than he does touchdowns against the New Orleans Saints over his first two seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's saying something, because if you look at Tom Brady, I mean, he can slice up any defense that you can think of. But when it comes to the Saints, it seems like they are his kryptonite. I mean, and they make him look, well, human. And it has a lot to do with Dennis Allen, and teams are looking at that. They're looking at the way that Dennis Allen makes this defense cook, okay? They are looking at the fact that they held Aaron Rodgers to 3 points. They're looking at the fact that they neutralized Dak Prescott. They're looking at the fact that they neutralized Tom Brady. And those teams want some of that, okay? They want some of that within their organization. And the Chicago Bears are really looking for a quality coach to bring this team to the forefront. Because if you look at the Chicago Bears, I mean, they got a lot of pieces in place to be a talented football team. They have a number one wide receiver that they can possibly re-sign. They have a young quarterback in Justin Fields. They got, young running back. I mean, they got all the pieces in place. I mean, they even got, Tariq Cohen, a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. And I mean, so they got a good thunder and lightning dynamic, and they got some pieces on the offensive line. Maybe you need to adjust, but there's a lot of talent and a lot of promise with the Chicago Bears. And you know that they have guys on defense, guys like Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith and Fast Eddie Jackson. They got some pieces, okay? So this would be a great spot for any guy to come in and coach this team, because the Chicago Bears, they have a recipe for success. But is Dennis Allen the answer? And in my opinion, he is not. I'm just being simple, man. I'm being simple. I'm being plain. I'm just being cut and dry. Dennis Allen, to me, isn't the answer for the Chicago Bears. And I know if somebody that's not a Saints fan, or probably a Saints fan, they're probably saying to themselves, well, TJ, you're only saying this and you're only doing a show about Dennis Allen because he's done such a good job with the New Orleans Saints and you don't want to see him leave. First and foremost, there are some guys out there, to me, that can coach defense better than Dennis Allen if he were to leave, in my humble opinion, okay? Vic Fangio, who was just fired by the Denver Broncos at the end of the season, is a really good defensive mind, okay? I think the reason why the Chicago Bears kind of fell off over the last couple of years is because Vic Fangio decided to be a head coach for the Denver Broncos. Before that, the Chicago Bears were a tough football team, and I was really, really afraid when they got into the playoffs, when that double doink by Cody Parkey. Okay, I was nervous because they would have had to come to the Superdome and play the New Orleans Saints. And the way that the New Orleans Saints played at the beginning of that game versus the Philadelphia Eagles in the divisional round, I think it might have been something completely different if the Chicago Bears would have got that lead with that defense. So a part of me was happy, okay, because Vic Fangio's defense was something serious, okay? I mean, but at the end of the day, Vic Fangio would be a good fit. Mike Zimmer, who I feel like also would be a good fit, because when you look at Mike Zimmer, he's a really good friend with Sean Payton. They're like best friends. They used to be on the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff along with head coach Bill Parcells, where Sean coached the offense and Mike Zimmer coached the defense. And these guys will go back and forth. So I think that Mike Zimmer would be a really good fit as well as what they already have in-house. Chris Richard. I think Chris Richard would be a really good defensive coordinator. I think a guy is very underrated, and he would be a great replacement if Dennis Allen was to get that opportunity. But I don't think that Dennis Allen is the right fit, because I just think that some guys are better coordinators than they are head coaches. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's guys that have made themselves a great career by just being a coordinator and not a head coach. Think about some of the greats that we have out there. Guys like Dick LeBeau, okay? Think about guys like the late, great Jim Johnston on the Philadelphia Eagles. These guys never were head coaches, but they always coach really good defense. And these guys are mentioned as some of the best coaches of all time. Okay, so I just think that some guys are just better coordinators. Guys like Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips, not a really good head coach, but a really good coordinator. Even guys like, we may not like this guy, but Steve Spagnuolo, I think he's a better coordinator than he is a head coach. So Dennis Allen, I feel like, falls into that category. And I don't think what the Chicago Bears are looking for, they should be finding in a Dennis Allen. I think they need somebody to bring out and push the potential that Justin Fields have. An offensive, innovative coach, okay? A guy that can go out there like Eric Bieniemy, okay? Somebody like that. Somebody that can get the best out of a guy like Justin Fields. Use the talent that they have offensively around them. I think that would be a very good fit. I think an offensive-minded coach would be the right recipe for the Chicago Bears, and you align yourself with a guy who is out there. Maybe bring Vic Fangio back if Dennis Allen stays with the Saints. Maybe bring in a Mike Zimmer, a guy that can complement what an offensive-minded coach can bring to the table. I think that is something that the Chicago Bears need. Now, Dennis Allen, I look at him. I think that he means a lot to the New Orleans Saints. I think that he would be a great fit as running a defense. But as a head coach, I just think that with the day-to-day operations, I don't think that that's a good fit. Now, I could be wrong. Like, he could get this job. He could get another job and coach a team to the playoffs. There are times where coaches fall flat on their face and then they get another opportunity and they turn it around. All right. Guys like Bill Belichick. I mean, he started out, as a coach of the Cleveland Browns, right? Cleveland wasn't the best fit for him, right? He goes and he resurrects his career and becomes one of the greatest coaches of all time, coaching the New England Patriots. Think about guys like Pete Carroll falling flat on his face with the Jets, then turns around the USC program, makes it one of the best programs in the country throughout the 2000s, comes back into the league, coaches the Seattle Seahawks to 2 Super Bowl appearances. So sometimes those guys can turn it around. But I do think that those guys are a little bit different than Dennis Allen actually is. Now, I like the fact that he's getting these opportunities, but I do think that this is, to me, a little bit of hypocrisy, right? You got a guy like Dennis Allen who only won 8 games, lost 28 of them, but he's still getting opportunities. But you have guys like Raheem Morris can't get another opportunity. You don't hear people talking about Jim Caldwell. You don't hear people talking about Lovie Smith. You don't hear them talking about any of those guys. The fact that we're actually having a conversation about a guy who coaches a team and only won 8 games. Okay, can you imagine one of these other guys losing 28 games, winning 8, getting another opportunity. I just feel like that's just absolutely weird to me. I know that he neutralized Tom Brady. And yes, I understand that defense is important. And yes, he is one of the top defensive coordinators in the league. But I just think that other guys should get more a second chance before Dennis Allen actually does. But that's just my opinion on that. Then we're going to fast forward. Let's talk a little bit about some of the games that's coming up this weekend. Looking down at my phone right here because I want to make sure that I'm actually calling the games out right according to order. Okay, we got the first game that takes place on tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern. That is the Bengals versus the Tennessee Titans. Then we have the 49ers versus the Packers also tomorrow at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. Then on Sunday, we have the Rams taking on the Buccaneers at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we also have the Bills and the Chiefs, a rematch of that AFC Championship game last year at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these games. Let's start with the Bengals and the Tennessee Titans. Now, this game is going to be exciting to me. I think that it generates a lot of excitement if you're just a casual football fan, because I think that this is going to be the game of the weekend. You have a guy in Joe Burrow giving the Cincinnati Bengals their very first win in the playoffs in 31 years, okay? Gets behind the mic, act like he's been there before, cool under pressure, just completely unflappable. The guy is, to me, the future of the National Football League. I know people have been talking about, Patrick Mahomes. Yes, he is super talented. They talk about some of these other quarterbacks out here that can sling it. But to me, Joe Burrow has something that a lot of these young quarterbacks don't have. He has that youthfulness about him, but he has the old school mind frame. And I think that he does have that gunslinger type mentality, but he is extremely accurate. The dude is, to me, if I can think about it, the dude has the mindset and the game ability of a Roger Staubach. He has the accuracy of a Drew Brees. And you know what I'm saying? He has that assassin mind frame like a Tom Brady. You mix all that together, you got yourself a future GOAT. But they're going up against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans get Derrick Henry back. Derrick Henry coming back from injury. He was dealing with his knee and his ankle, but he is going to give it a shot. And we know the Tennessee Titans are a different beast when that beast is out there. When we're talking about Derrick Henry, the dude is the absolute truth. The dude led the league in rushing, and he missed, for I guess like 5 weeks after he got hurt. That goes to show you what type of pace he was on. The dude, to me, probably would have broke Eric Dickerson's record, even though that might not have been a good look, or Eric Dickerson may not have been happy about it. But at the end of the day, I think that that's what's going to happen. To me, if he would have stayed healthy, what Jonathan Taylor did out in Indianapolis probably would have been a footnote. But he is coming back, and we know that by him running the football, him wearing down defenses, that set up the play action for Ryan Tannehill. Look, Ryan Tannehill isn't the best quarterback in the league. The guy isn't, to me, top 10, top 15 when you think about it. But when you add Derrick Henry to it, he can go out there and run that play action like none other. He can make good decisions, and with Derrick Henry, they can wear you down. They have some talented players on the offensive side of the football. I don't think these guys are lacking at any position. Offensive line, these guys are rough and tough. Okay, the wide receiver position, these guys are absolutely incredible. And then you have the running back and Derrick Henry. So you combine all these different things. Sorry about that. That was my Google Mini. But anyway, when you combine all of these other guys together, okay, there's a recipe for success. I mean, these guys are really good. AJ Brown, Julio Jones, most likely is going to be playing in this game. So Tennessee has a lot of talented players across the board. But the Cincinnati Bengals, to me, they have a lot of fight. They got a lot of grit, and they have the right quarterback. I mean, they got a good running game. You got some guys that can get pressure on Ryan Tannehill. Okay, I mean, they got some guys on every level. They have done an outstanding job with their front office, getting the right guys in place, a good combination of guys. And, they're not the best defense in the world, but they can make stops when necessary. And Joe Burrow can go out there and sling that rock with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, you got all these different talented players across the board. in my opinion, I think that this is going to be an exciting game, and it's going to be the upset that I don't want to say the upset of the weekend, but I do feel like the Cincinnati Bengals are going to beat the Tennessee Titans. I understand that this game is in Tennessee. I understand that the Tennessee Titans had a first round bye, but if you combine that, them being a little bit rusty, and the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals, to me, are on an absolute mission, I think that the Tennessee Titans are going to lose this game. And the Bengals, that's right, the Bengals are going to be on their way to the AFC Championship game. I cannot believe that I'm actually saying that, but it is 2022, and they do have Joe Burrow. So I have the Cincinnati Bengals knocking off the Tennessee Titans. Then the next game, we have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Green Bay Packers, once again, have the number one seed. The Green Bay Packers, once again, have the best record in the NFC. And just like last year, they come into it coming off a first round bye. They dominated the game versus the Seattle Seahawks. It wasn't even close, in my opinion, last season in the divisional round. But the Green Bay Packers, to me, are choke artists. I mean, I'm just being real. They go out there, they win a lot of games. They go out there every season, they get the top seeding, and then they wet the bed, okay? And not only do they wet the bed, but they're wet the bed at home, okay? It'd be one thing if you're losing on the road. That's understandable. The crowd gets into it. You get some false start penalties. Things don't start going your way. The offense and the defense is feeding off the crowd excitement of the game. But when you lose at home, okay, on a frozen tundra Lambeau Field, I mean, you have to say that, it's a choke job, okay? And I don't feel bad about saying that, because I said the same thing about the Saints when they had home games in the playoffs and they lose, okay? But the Green Bay Packers have something to prove. We don't know if this is Aaron Rodgers' last season with him. We don't know if he's going to be able to negotiate and work things out with management. So we seen what Jordan Love looking like. I mean, the future does not look promising at the quarterback position. And once again, I cannot believe that I was upset and threw a rant over what, the Saints not getting Jordan Love after what I've seen him look like over the last couple of seasons. But I digress. All right. But you don't know how many opportunities that you're going to get at, getting a shot at the championship when you have yourself an elite quarterback. But the San Francisco 49ers, to me, coming off that some people are calling it controversial. I just call it a win. All right. We can talk about, the referee running down the field and them not being able to spike the football. Man, miss me with all that. The San Francisco 49ers dominated the Dallas Cowboys. And if it wasn't for Jimmy G missing Brandon Ayuk, and if it wasn't for Deebo Samuels, not lunging a little bit closer, a couple inches, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We wouldn't even be talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I think the whole situation was about what the San Francisco 49ers didn't do versus what the Dallas Cowboys actually did. But they find themselves in the divisional round, and it's crazy because the San Francisco 49ers had to play their way into the playoffs, okay? I mean, we're watching the San Francisco 49ers, on television, and we're watching the Saints season come to an end a couple weeks ago because the 49ers actually won the game, okay? So this team coming into the playoffs, knocking off the Dallas Cowboys at home, in Dallas at AT&T Stadium, and they're going up against the Green Bay Packers. To me, I feel like the San Francisco 49ers are one of the most physical football teams in the league. I think that they are going to beat the Green Bay Packers. I think that history is going to continue to repeat itself. First off, I want to make this perfectly clear. I don't care about any one of these teams like that, okay? I don't have anything to gain, all right? Some people think that I don't like Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers because a couple of years ago, I wanted them to lose, and they didn't lose because the Saints would have got the 1 seed, but it didn't happen. This has absolutely nothing to do with that, okay? This has everything to do with the fact that I feel like the San Francisco 49ers are much more physical. They can get pressure up front. They can rush with 4, okay? And then you also have great linebackers, Fred Warner, who got injured in that Cowboy game. He's going to play. Nick Bosa, who had a head injury, a concussion, he's going to be playing in the game. You got some of these other guys that are out here, that are able to make some plays. You got Jimmy, you got Jimmy Ward back there, in the secondary, and Jimmy Garoppolo. isn't as bad as people making him out to be. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo is a solid quarterback. He's solid enough to go up to Green Bay and get you a victory, and not to mention a running game. Okay, you got Elijah Mitchell, you got Deebo Samuels not only catching the football but also running in between the tackles like he's a running back. You got Brandon Ayuk. The light has finally come on for him. And George Kittle, a guy who not only can block, but also can pass catch. And I feel like it's going to be nightmares for the Green Bay Packers linebackers. So I got the 49ers winning this football game. So I guess that would be two shocking victories to start off divisional round weekend. I got both home teams losing in the divisional round. I got the 49ers making their way to the NFC Championship and the Cincinnati Bengals making their way to the AFC Championship. So who are they going to face? All right, we got the Rams taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I just want to make this perfectly clear, okay? I am completely wiping out the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play in the same division as the New Orleans Saints. I'm just going to make that perfectly clear. This is me giving my honest opinion based on the matchup that I've seen. A couple weeks ago, earlier in the season, the Los Angeles Rams took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, they took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in SoFi, and they dominated that game, all right? And now they're going to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this time in Tampa. And you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense really banged up. Chris Godwin out for the season. Antonio Brown loses his doggone mind. You got Mike Evans, who's dealing with a hamstring injury, only number one target for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got Gronk out there. You got some running backs, by committee. You got some guys that aren't going to make anybody stay up at night trying to figure out what they're going to do. Okay, I'm not losing any sleep worrying about what Cyril Grayson is going to do or what Scotty Miller is going to do. So you have to look at that. Defensively, they got a lot of talented players, okay? You got Devin White, all right? You got Levante David coming back. The secondaries are still a little suspect to me, but they can rush Matthew Stafford. And even though the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had a history over the last couple of seasons at stopping a run, I mean, there are some holes in the boat here, okay? You're able to run on these guys. And you look at Cam Akers, a guy who is a incredible talent, right? A guy who is playing right now after suffering an Achilles injury at the beginning of the season, which is incredible. He ran for 95 yards against the Arizona Cardinals. And also, man, you got Sony Michel, who's also running between the tackles. OBJ seems like he done found the spot out there in LA. And you also have Cooper Kupp, who led the league in receptions this season among wide receivers. So when I look at this game, I feel like the Los Angeles Rams are going to win. I mean, it's just that simple. Look, Matthew Stafford finally got the monkey off his back. He got his first playoff victory in his career last week versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now that he got that out of the way, he can finally go out there and relax and play a little bit of football. And I know some people are like, Matthew Stafford, he chokes, this, that, and the third. I don't know what Matthew Stafford people watch, because I've seen Matthew Stafford bring teams back. I've seen Matthew Stafford go out there with late game heroics. The guy threw a touchdown with a separated shoulder, for God's sakes. So anybody that thinks that this guy isn't tough enough, or this guy can't go out there and be able to shoot it out with the great Tom Brady, I think that's just sadly mistaken. Okay. But I think the Rams are going to win this football game, because when you look at the Rams, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just way too banged up. I think that finally attrition is going to rear its ugly head. Okay, we know football is the battle of attrition at times, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are pretty much banged up, and the Rams are coming in pretty much relatively healthy. So I think that this is going to play a role. Now, unless the referees do what they do when Tom Brady hits the field in playoff times, then I'm out. All right, I ain't got nothing else to say. But if they go out there and they do what I think that the Rams are going to do, I think the Rams are going to get the victory. So I got the Rams knocking off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa, Raymond James Stadium. That's the way I look at it. So that is 3 home teams that are going to get knocked off. All right, so will there be a fourth? All right, I got the Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Rematch of the AFC Championship game should be an exciting one. Both of these teams sent a message to one another. Okay, they knew they were going to play each other most likely if each other win. All right, you got both of these teams putting up 40 points and slapping around their opponents, leaving little to no doubt that these arguably are the best two teams in the AFC right now. You got the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 5 touchdowns, right? 1 pick, all right, just absolutely destroyed the Pittsburgh Steelers, made them boys look like they shouldn't even been out there. And quite honestly, they shouldn't have, okay, if the Indianapolis coach then wet the bed against the Jags. But they went out there and they did what they were supposed to do. They knocked off an opponent that was inferior. You know what I'm saying? Like it was. You know what I'm saying? Like they just did not belong, okay, in the same room with the Kansas City Chiefs at that particular time. And then you have the Buffalo Bills, who dominated their division rivals, the New England Patriots, scoring on 7 straight possessions, and leaving little to no doubt that they are the best team in the AFC East. And now these two teams are going to match up against one another. To me, I look at this game, all I got to say is it's time. It's time for Josh Allen to step forward. He took steps forward last season. A lot of people put him in the MVP race. He led the Buffalo Bills to the AFC East title first time in I don't know how long. And then they finally win a football game. They knock off the Baltimore Ravens. They find themselves in the AFC Championship game. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. But it is time for Josh Allen to step forward. It is time for Josh Allen to leave little to no doubt that he is the future of the National Football League. He has guys that are talented. You know, you got guys like Dawson Knox. You got guys like Stephon Diggs. You got guys like Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley. You got some guys that can make some plays. You got Singletary. You know, like you got guys that can move the football. And you also have a really good offensive line, and you have the ability to move around in the pocket. And then on the defensive side of football, you have a really good head coach that knows how to coach some defense, and Sean McDermott has their defense out there playing really, really well. And now you go up against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to go ahead and get it done. All right, you got to get it done. This has to end with Josh Allen winning this game versus Patrick Mahomes, because look, this is one of those things that is shaping up to be the next Brady versus Manning. This is what it's supposed to be, right? These guys meeting in the regular season sometimes. These guys seeing each other in the postseason. This is going to be one of those things that we are going to be looking at for, down the line, right? As long as both of these guys stay healthy. This can be the new Brady versus Manning, okay? I know that you got Justin Herbert out there. He's out there handling his business. But to me, I feel like the way that both of these guys can sling the rock, both of these guys got bazooka arms, I think that the NFL is going to want to make this the new rivalry game. So Josh Allen has got to get it done. But will he get it done? No, he will not. I got the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. Look, I think the Kansas City Chiefs going to this season with something to prove. Got slapped around in the Super Bowl, made these guys look like some straight up punks. Earlier in the season, they had some issues with defense. Steve Spagnuolo turns it around, and now you have to go out there and you have to prove that you can get the job done. All right, you can run the football, you can throw the football. You can play defense. You're opportunistic defense. I've seen better defenses, but you're opportunistic. So I think that the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are playing at home, Loud Stadium, Arrowhead, I think you look at the fact that Patrick Mahomes is on a mission, and also that offensive line is on a road to redemption after what happened in the postseason last year with the Bucs in the Super Bowl. I got the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. It's going to be close, okay? I think it's going to come down to Patrick Mahomes doing what Patrick Mahomes does in late in the game. But I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to knock off the Buffalo Bills. Don't feel happy about saying that. I would love to see the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen taking on Joe Burrow in the AFC Championship game for a shot at the Super Bowl. But I just think that Patrick Mahomes has some different plans. So that's what I feel about the divisional round of the playoffs. That's how I think that things are going to go. But I would love to hear from you. First off, what do you think about Dennis Allen getting another coaching opportunity? And also, what do you think about the AFC and the NFC divisional round of the playoffs? Comment down below, like and share this video. Thank you so much for checking out the first edition of the State of the Saints podcast minute. I know it was way longer than a minute, but we had to break down those games, okay? But we're going to continue to talk about the New Orleans Saints in the offseason, giving you all topics about the team and breaking them down for a few minutes. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?